You know what film was on that actually? Remember it was in last year. It was doing the festival rounds. Remember the Bless Me Father? Do you remember that film?
Oh, the one, the really hilarious one with the priest.
Yeah, it wasn't
Oh
hilarious.
my God, can we review that next week?
I know. I
That's
don't want
too
you to review any
good.
Irish films because I don't want to get
Oh,
because
I know what you mean.
it'll
But
be a
that
bit of
is my
slating my
favorite
praise.
film last year. It
Pardon?
was, I think we're talking about the same film, aren't we? The best meat, the one with the priest.
It's in a priest. It's in a confessional box.
Oh, is it? Maybe it's different then.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I'm
it's in
not
a
sure.
confessional. This guy, the whole
Yeah.
thing takes place in a confessional. You must have seen it.
Oh, did I see it? There was one about a priest, and it turns out he had a daughter. That one, no. I think it's
It's
totally
in a
different.
confessional
Sorry.
box. No, not the priest didn't have the daughter. This guy,
No,
I don't know what film you're talking about. I
sorry.
mean, the whole film takes place in a so if it's different,
Ah,
it's a different film.
no,
Okay,
I think it's different.
Joe.
All
All
right.
right.
Should we get to this one?
Yeah, we get to this one.
Yes, this is interesting. Okay.
Okay. Let's intro it here. Welcome to the No Budget Filmcast, where we dip into the independent film universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel, or will the panel agree with each other? Tune in to find out. My name is Milo Dennison, and with me, as always, are my most excellent co-hosts, Claire Milan
Hello.
and Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
So today we are discussing a film that I will let Claire introduce for us.
Yes. So this film, okay, it's not technically a no-budget film. It isn't a no-budget film.
Yeah,
But
I was waiting
it's
for
very relevant.
I was waiting for Cathal to complain, because every time I pick a film that's not deemed independent, he complains about it. I'm doing air quotes, by the way, for anyone listening. He complains about it, and he didn't complain about you selecting this film.
I know. I thought it was very,
Give me a chance.
apt because it's called Contagion. I think most people have heard about it nowadays, but it's actually from 2011. It's a film that was made 2011, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Is that how you pronounce his name? Soderbergh, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's starring Jude Law, Kate Winslet, and Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon. And it's about a virus which is extremely contagious and starts spreading throughout the world and starts infecting people, and there's chaos ensues, and craziness happens, and they're all in awful panic. But Matt Damon, he is immune at the start. It's interesting. I saw it years and years back, and this was it was made in 2011, and and it's very, very relevant now to what's going on. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit different. Some of the stuff is a bit different, but some of it has come true. So it's what did you think of it? Did you see it before? Did you?
No, I've never seen it. It was funny. I went to watch this last night, and I had to look at our chat because I was like, "What movie was I supposed to watch? Was it Outbreak? Was it like?" And I was trying to remember all these virus themed films that are out there, and so I had to actually go back to our chat and be like, "Oh, that's right, Contagion." So yeah, this film's funny because it has like every actor in it is like a known actor across the board. So it's kind of funny that that it had, I mean, they must have had a huge budget for their cast. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow's in it. She dies within like the first 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's a kind of a bit of a spoiler, but not really.
Not really. You can kind of tell as soon as she comes on. It's called Contagion. And as soon as they show her on the screen, you kind of know what's going on.
I think it's in the trailer as well. Mm-hmm. I think it is. But it's fascinating because this was 2011, and they worked with the World Health Organization when they were researching this film. And there's a great TED Talks on with this. He's an epidemiologist, I think, and he's called Larry Brilliant, and he was consultant for this film. And Larry Brilliant, he actually helped. I think he helped cure smallpox, and he was involved in different epidemics throughout the world. But he was consulting this film, and it's quite interesting. If anyone looks up TED Talks and Larry Brilliant, you'll find him talking about viruses, and he predicted that there would be a virus or a pandemic in the future. And when he did the TED Talks years and years, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But it's interesting that he worked in this film and gave them that information. And even Kate Winslet, she actually went out and worked with epidemiologists and virologists to kind of research how they conduct, how they go about there. When there's an outbreak of a virus, so it is quite interesting. And they talk about their infection rate. So for coronavirus, it's like 2.2 people can get infected. But with this virus, it's like 4 people can infect. For every one person who has it, 4 people get infected. So it's really, there is some sort of similarity to coronavirus. So it's, it's kind of interesting. So.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting to watch. It's almost like a drama documentary more than an actual drama. And it's curious to watch it as we are in the middle of a pandemic. I didn't watch it originally, and I think if you had watched it a few years ago, you might have had a different feeling about it. You might have thought, "Oh my God, that could happen," or you might have had a sense of foreboding. So you sort of, now that we're in the middle of it, you miss that aspect of it. And you're right; they get a lot of things correct. With the R rate and the the way it spreads globally very quickly, and the social distancing, and they can have funerals, and then even the blogger, that character too. So you're kind of impressed with how much they got right. But as a drama, I don't think it really worked. It was kind of a bit flat. They ticked all the boxes. Yeah, okay, we got to do this. Yeah, okay, this, and it was quite short as well, which is maybe not a bad thing. But it was an interesting watch. But as a standalone film, it probably was missing something there.
But it's funny because that was one of the criticisms of the film, was the fact the drama, it was very flat. Like, well, this is obviously, we already said about this, but the fact Gwyneth Paltrow's character dies at the start, and Matt Damon is her husband, and he kind of forgets about her very quickly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, she's dead, he's upset, and then it's like she never really, he kind of forgets about her, through most of the film. And it jumps from one thing to the next a little bit, like dramatically wise. But it's only like 90 minutes, I think, or even less. So it is quite short. But the stuff that some of the similarities were uncanny, and the fact that they did work with epidemiologists and the World Health Organization to get stuff accurate. But yeah, it some parts of it did fall a bit flat, I thought. But.
Yeah. I find that with films like this, where they've got an all-star cast, multiple people, and where it jumps around a lot globally, that you do lose a lot in the drama. And I think part of it has to do with you're not really invested with any of the characters, really, because they spend so little time on screen. Like Matt Damon's character, he's kind of the lead, but I don't think he has all that much more screen time than any of the other characters that we see. And that's probably a lot of why it falls so flat, because I'm kind of in agreement on that as well. Lawrence Fishburne, for example, I mean, he's a great dramatic actor. He has a great presence to him, but does he necessarily stand out in comparison to anyone else? I don't really think so, no.
And even the doctor who was the hero, or the heroine,
the girl, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She injects herself with the virus to prove the antidote. But I mean, she was more or less an innocuous character up to that point, and then like they just did it. Okay, she saves the day, and it was all done very quickly. I get the feeling.
I get
the feeling it was of the editing floor, the cutting room floor, that maybe it was 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and they thought, like, it's not any better any longer, so they just cut it back, pare it back, get it out there.
Because it did rush. It's like they need to find an ending, something that kind of bring this thing together. So it did feel very rushed in the end. And that's not realistic either.
Yeah,
like,
really. It's like, okay,
to find a vaccine so quickly. So.
Exactly. She injects herself and suddenly like, oh, and then we get the little wrap up of like how they're going to distribute the, the antivirus and all that kind of stuff, or the what the hell's it called?
The vaccines.
Vaccine. There you go. Thanks.
Yeah.
And the whole distribution process of that is kind of ridiculous.
One thing that I was curious about is the Jude Law character, the blogger. Why did they make him Australian?
Yeah, I didn't get that. I was like, there's no need to make him Australian. He's a fictional character. Like, some of them are, I think Kate Winslet's character is based on a real person, but Jude Law, I think he's fictional completely.
Well, I was
so
thinking,
why does he have this awful Australian accent?
I was thinking that they were referring to Julian Assange there.
What that was?
Really?
I didn't
get that.
But same thing when we were watching. I was like, what's with this accent? Like, that it makes no sense. Like, yeah, he could have used his natural accent or just used an American accent. Since
I think it was an oblique reference to Julian Assange. I could be wrong there, but I couldn't think of any other reason. Because if he had been in Australia, you could say, okay, it's the global nature of this. But he wasn't. He was in America, so there was no other reason to do it.
And I find that quite off-putting as well, because when I first heard it, I was like, what type of accent is that? It doesn't even sound us like, obviously he was Australian, but it's a very bad Australian accent.
That was the other thing too, because it took a while to figure out what accent he was using, because you're like, wait a minute, what accent is that? Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And actually, getting back to the criticism of Matt Damon, well, not that he was bad in the film or anything like that, but that opening scene when he's in the hospital and Gwyneth Paltrow dies. And he didn't think about his son at that point, which struck me as odd, that his wife had just died suddenly, and his son had got the exact same illness probably, and he didn't go, oh my God, it was
that's what I find very odd. It was like he totally forgot about the wife and the son, and then it's just very strange. It's like he got over them very quickly. But there's definitely going to be a load of virus films coming out. Because I was kind of looking up short films with viruses, and a lot of them are really, really cheaply made, like Asian films. The ones that I came across anyway, and the other ones I came across, they're just very, they're very kind of like zombie apocalyptic kind of films. But there hasn't, as far as I can see anyway, maybe there are out there, but there hasn't been a really good virus short film or pandemic short film. I know for feature films there's also Outbreak, which is another blockbuster, which I saw years and years back. I think it's slightly different, but yeah, there hasn't really been a virus one, except like that I can think of anyway.
Well, the thing about Outbreak, which I don't know, I've never seen, but it is not based on the laboratory rats, and I think.
Oh, I think it's based in Africa as well. I think isn't it all based in Africa or something?
Well, I think it was an Ebola type virus.
Yeah, it's kind of different.
Well, it's the thing about Ebola in Africa that it's highly it's not highly contagious, but it has a very high mortality rate. I think it could be like 80% or something like that. But it's not airborne in the way, say, coronavirus is. But this particular one in Outbreak was a Ebola, part of the Ebola family. But it only affected like the monkeys, disease. I think they call them non-human primates or something like that. And it was airborne.
Excuse me.
It had mutated.
Good timing there, right as you said, airborne.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I don't have the coronavirus, don't worry.
But it had mutated to become airborne. But it didn't affect humans. But that's that was the implication that if something like Ebola, which has a huge, very high mortality rate, mutate to become airborne, then we would be talking about something really, really bad.
But a scientist came out and said the virus in Contagion. And the coronavirus is worse than the virus in Contagion, because in Contagion people actually died quickly enough, so the virus would have kind of died out. But because coronavirus has a really, really long incubation period, it's more dangerous because we don't really know. But yeah.
And also with the COVID-19, you can be asymptomatic.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. Yeah.
Did you notice did you notice in how people reacted though? Like now people have been really good about like following social, I think for the most part, in the US here, social distancing rules, they haven't like gone looting or any kind of stuff like that. Whereas in this film, as soon as they start shutting stuff down, the world goes crazy and people are looting other people's houses and they're running out of everything and that kind of stuff. So I definitely noticed a big difference there in regards to the current pandemic.
Except in America recently, the protests, and in France as
Well,
well.
the protests, that's a little different though.
It's
That's
not
just
as different. Yeah.
they're not
Like at least
looting and they're
we
not,
can, we're fairly tame in the supermarkets, which is nothing like we haven't run out of anything major.
a couple weeks of a run on toilet paper and that was about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think perhaps I'm wrong here, but there's possibly an attitude that for a lot of people, young people particularly, that it's not that deadly towards people who are young, so that they don't feel the threat of it as much, maybe.
Yeah, it's different because it's like the Spanish flu in 1918. It was mostly younger people it affected, like people in their 30s and 40s, and there were people with families, so like parents died, and so yeah, it's a strange thing to think about, like that. Imagine if the coronavirus affected people in their 30s and 40s, would we panic more than now the coronavirus affecting mostly elderly people?
It's a legitimate question.
All right, so ratings.
Okay, Milo, you go first.
I'm gonna go 3. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards a 2-star, honestly, but I'll go 3 because I do like the way they treated the way that the agencies worked in the film and trying to track down and working on so I think, like you were saying, Claire, with that they got consultants in to make sure they were doing everything reasonably well. I'm going to give them credit for that, but I mean the acting was pretty lackluster. Beyond that, the story and the characters weren't really all that well developed. So I'm being nice and giving it a 3 when in reality it probably deserves a 2.
So actually, I totally agree with you. I think it was fascinating to watch it, like during the coronavirus outbreak, but I think the characters weren't well developed and the drama was a bit flat. So I'd give it a 3 as well.
I'm gonna give it a low 3. It's somewhere between 2.5 and 3, but I'll bump it up to 3 because it was interesting to see, and they did get quite a lot of it right, in terms of predicting what would happen. So,
well, there you go, podcast listeners. As always, let us know if you agree with our ratings, if you agree with our review. You can always reach us on the social medias at No Budget Show. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Or you can leave us a comment or a review. And with that, we will say goodbye, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.